Welcome to DC Conversations, and let's
Thank
begin.
you.
Um,
Yes.
so I had this thing like I wanted to ask you. Your first major international production was, featured Dhanush, and then now your next is going to be with, Dhruva Vikram. How different is the pressure and responsibility when producing a film anchored by a star or a star kid, especially because, in this landscape where fan expectations are like sky high.
Yeah. Look, actually, I've done a bunch of films between. There was a film called J Baby, which had Urvashi ma'am, and then there was a film called Writer, which is also a debut director, but with Samudrakani, and so yeah, so there were those films in between, and they were very special films. But um, the pressure. So, to be honest with you, having somebody who has a fan base, who has a lot of support, it comes with its own set of advantages and also pressures, as you mentioned, because you're carrying something very precious in your film, which
Hmm.
is that the fans, they it isn't just something that they watch these films for entertainment, or of course entertainment is a big part of it, but they hold the success of these actors very close to their own hearts. It's like a personal victory, a personal failure.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when you're releasing a film that has a person who's very beloved, because that's how I look at it, right? Someone who has fans is a very beloved person to many people in the audience. You also carry that responsibility of making sure that the fans, you're doing right by them. Ultimately, who is keeping the theaters alive? It's fans keeping the theater alive. Uh, those when you see, on the ticket booking apps, when you start seeing tickets selling out, it always starts with the first few rows and then it goes backwards. And when you're doing a film which is a very artistic film, or when you're doing a film which is, not such a big commercial film, you see the back rows filling up first and then it moves the other way.
Yeah.
So the thing is that, like, I just love this engagement that fans have with, their beloved stars. And I don't know if we were able to give them that with the extraordinary journey of the Fakir. I think maybe there was a different sort of expectation, but I'm very confident that with Bison, the fans are going to get exactly what they want from Dhruv. And, that this film is going to be that platform that kind of gets him the love of his fans and grows that base for him. And I take that responsibility seriously. So it's no fun, it's the most fun screening. It's not the one with the celebrities. It's not the one with the cast and crew. It's always the one where you have fans in the audience. So that's going to happen tomorrow, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Talking of Bison, yeah, there's a lot of anticipation and buzz around the movie. Also considering Marie Selvaraj has directed it. Okay, what is it about the story that you really liked, and what makes it very special for Neelam Studios?
So let me start with the second part first.
Your favorite,
So
yeah.
Ranjit sir produced Pariyaram Perumal, and I'm part of the producing team that is bringing Ranjit sir and Mari sir back together after all these years. They've both gone on to do many other films, a lot of other work, but
Yeah,
there's a certain kind of magic in their relationship. There's a certain kind of magic in their collaboration. And so I think for Neelam Studios to have been the platform to do that is certainly super special. As far as the film is concerned, look, for me, it was about working with Marisar. I think he's just a rare, rare, rare kind of talent. He's a I've said this, he doesn't direct from reference, he doesn't direct from story in quotes, he directs almost from memory. So he's going kind of like deeply into his own soul and giving you a piece of his childhood, his growing up. So even in scenes that are very intense or scenes that are, even violent scenes for that matter, you will always see that there are pieces of him, pieces of memory that make that scene very 360 degrees, and you really understand the character in a very tactile way, It's almost like you're in the room. You can hear in a it's summertime and you can hear the fan whirring, even though you don't see any of it on screen, but you're right there with him because he's created something which is so authentic.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, it wasn't really. I'll be honest with you. I was super excited about the story when it came to me. It was May 2020, in the middle of COVID. Marisa sent me, and it read like a short story. Actually, Marisa is a very beautiful writer. So it read like a short story. It was a beautiful story. But honestly, Mari sir could have sent me a blank piece of paper, and I would still have done the film because it's a privilege for me. It's a little bit of a fan moment for me also to be working with Ranjit and Mari. They're both my two top favorite directors in the country.
You've often spoken about, Tamil cinema being your real film school. So
Yeah,
what have been your learnings, biggest learnings from producing films?
when I came here with a set of very specific kinds of rules. Um, you should have a bound script, you should have a bound schedule, you should, and not to say that one shouldn't, but that certainly each film deserves a certain kind of unique approach uh, to that. And I don't want to be an irresponsible producer, and I'm not making a case for being financially irresponsible, but certainly what I would say is that Marisa didn't give us a script. We had a story.
Mm.
And then, kind of like after every schedule, he would tell us, okay, this is what I want to change, or this is the character I want to bring in. And at that point, it was very daunting, extremely daunting, because you don't know where the film's going to go. But I think that the idea is for a producer to be able to find a director that they can fully trust, or whose craft they can fully trust. And then once you have that trust, then you need to be able to jump off that cliff. So the learning from me, and in terms of like being in film school, is certainly that you have to allow your creator to create. And sometimes that's not going to follow the path or the rules that you've set for yourself. And within a certain kind of paradigm, you need to be able to help the creator down that path. That's one. The second thing, again, specifically with Marisar, I was at the last few days of shoot. I was on set, and it made me excited to direct, to be honest, because he's able to create drama out of very small moments. And if you are able to cry, if you're able to laugh just on the rushes of a film, you know that's something very special. And what I learned is that um it's because it isn't just about like the narrative arc of the character and the story. It's also like each scene has a arc of a character and the journey that he's going through. And then the third thing I think, which has been really interesting for me, is how many young people have worked on this film. For Nivas, he's very fresh. He's a music director, and look at the music that's come out. It's like, I think in the last few years, it's completely broken the mold of the kind of music that we were getting. Um, the editor, this is his first film, and if you see generally the approach that Ranjit sir has, it's to carry a lot of people with him, consistently keep investing in new talent. And I think that is something that has been a big learning for me, is that when you work in a collective, you also get the energy of the collective. Um, and that's actually very special.
Worked on several projects, and they're also on, digital platforms now.
Yeah.
So, how do you see the role of OTT platforms evolving for politically rooted and independent narratives in India?
This is a difficult question. Um, okay, first of all, I do want to say that, I think the Hindi film industry particularly has benefited a lot from the OTT boom that happened particularly post-COVID, because I think what OTT did was that it really contributed to the creation of new talents. So there were a lot of like young writers, young directors, young actors who got a chance because of OTT, and now they've broken into the mainstream cinema also, and that kind of regeneration is very important for cinema. Without that, everything turns stale, stories turn stale. Visually, what you see on screen turns stale. So I think in that sense, OTT has made a huge contribution in that, in platforming of new talent. OTTs are a reflection of who we are as a community, as a society, as people. And um, OTTs are also manned by, you know, people who have families, who have, homes to go back to and people to look after. And, I'd answer this question on a very human level, which is that I understand the insecurity, I understand the fear, because the ramifications today are not small, they're
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
Um, and I think it's important for the legal system in general and the political system more particularly to kind of take a look at whether this sort of nuisance suits are something that we want to give so much oxygen to, right? Like they don't benefit anyone. In fact, there's a lot of films that maybe are from a kind of political ideology that is very opposed to my personal ideology, and some of those films have done extremely well, and where I personally disagree with those films, I will fight till my last breath for filmmakers, creators from anywhere on the spectrum, uh, to be able to have a voice and platform to say the things that are important to them. And I think that freedom is what makes us dynamic, and that freedom is what gives us a dynamic film industry. And so I think that this is a question that we have to answer beyond the OTTs as well, right? It's like, who are we? Who are we? What is the soul of our nation? The soul of our nation is a nation that is constantly at odds with each other and at the same time constantly at peace with itself. And that's what we've been, and that's what we must continue to be. If we try and paint ourselves in a single color, we will lose the sheen of that color as well. We are uh, And so I think that in answer to your question, sorry for the long-winded answer, and I'm not trying to avoid a direct answer, but I do think that this is a more complex question. And I do think that political stories are very important because we're a very democratic nation. We are actually, if I say it in Hindi, हमारे कण कण में there's a democratic fervor. I mean, you look at what's happening in Bihar right now. It's like a beautiful celebration of democracy. Uh, and if we are, if we try and stop those conversations from happening, we will also hollow out our democratic political institutions and systems. And so, in a much larger way, I think it's an important conversation that we have to have.
The film industry, like any other industry, we say, there's equality and we've been empowered and all that. But still, you see that it could be male dominated, right? How did you find your footing as a woman producer navigating this space? And
I
what is
haven't
it you
found my
think
footing.
has actually helped build credibility?
Yeah, I haven't found my footing, and I found it very hard. And I've said this: there are moments where I felt entirely invisible. I think that for a state like Tamil Nadu, which has such progressive politics, and which really does endeavor to have those conversations, I think it's important to now take that step to go beyond just a conversation on the basics, right? The basics are like safety at work. The
Yeah,
basics are facilities at work. But we have to go beyond that now. We also have to talk about the equity of opportunity of work, right? It's not enough just to say that, hey, you know, is there equality or not equality? No, but films and cinema, especially cinema teams, it's a very social exercise. It's a very social activity, right? You're bonded together. You're in the trenches. It's a war. Now the thing is that if all the ADs in a team are men and the humor is like that and it's very like locker room culture, it's going to make it impossible for women to be a part of that.
true.
Um, Similarly, if the way that we approach, uh, uh, how sets are made, like just the design of sets or the design of how work happens, if that does not allow women to be part of the social aspects of filmmaking or cinema on set or production, you'll always leave them out.
Yeah.
And for that, we have to, unfortunately, the conversation starts and ends with sexual assault. But sexual assault is the end of a spectrum. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's a very cultural paradigm shift that has to happen. There
Mm.
have been meetings that I've gone into where my associate, who was a man but who worked for me, where people have only spoken to him. I mean, they have literally turned away from me and had a conversation only with him. Um, and it's not because I don't think they were doing it purposefully. It was just such a natural thing that if there's a man and a woman, then the man must be the senior person and the woman must be there for note taking and
Yeah.
tea and coffee and kind of thing. So yes, I make no bones about it. One of the wonderful things of having worked internationally in international productions and also in Hindi films is that the acceptance of women in the workforce is much more. That has not yet translated to I think, I mean, my only experience is from Tamil cinema, and I don't think that it has translated in the way that it should have, given the circumstances.
What are your future projects? Do we see you directing? Because you said you're very fascinated and were inspired by Marie. Yeah,
I would love to direct. I would love to direct, and certainly, some stuff has started in my mind, and I'm going to take some time after this film to try and see where that goes. Um, it's a very insecure feeling because as a director, you're kind of like laying yourself bare, right? To know that, you also have to know yourself.
yeah,
Um, and actually, that existential question is a very difficult question to answer. I One of the things that I've really appreciated working with Ranjit, Mari, and everybody around here, all the directors that I've worked with here, is that everyone is able to tell a story that is very close to them. They're not. It's not redact in the sense that it's not, oh, I read this story or I saw this film and like this meets this. No, it's not like that. This is an experience that I've had. This is a story that has is close to my heart. And so I guess if I really want to direct, then I also need to find what is that authentic, true self in my heart.
yeah,
Um, I've had I grew up in Delhi, and then the second part of my growing up happened in Bombay because I went there in my early 20s, and I genuinely grew up only in Bombay. Bombay raised me. So, somewhere my story lies between Delhi, Bombay, and now Chennai, which is like chapter three. So maybe chapter four will be a little amalgamation of all three. And it's a pan-India film in some way.
good one. Lovely, lovely
Uh,
talking to you, Aditi.
Thank you. Thanks.